I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and today I am doing a simple design. This bracelet was created by Anna at our Hagerstown store, and it is a very simple 2-needle kind of right angle weave design. This is a crystal bangle that's created with our 4mm Potomac crystal round beads as well as 11OC beads. If you need any of the materials to do this triangular crystal bangle, you can go below the video to the published date of the video, hit the show more button below there, and it'll give you links to all of these different products to purchase online. This is a bangle bracelet, so you are not going to need a clasp. It just slides on your wrist and kind of moves around. This looks great as a stackable bracelet with multiple crystal bracelets as well. You can also do this in different sizes and with different beads. Again, this is just a kind of light bulb, give you some ideas and give you some pointers and tips. For the actual crystal bangle, you're going to need some 11OC beads as well as 4mm crystal round beads. Again, you can switch up the beads. That's up to you. It's just going to look a little bit different. I'm going to be using 2 or 4 different colors of my crystal round beads. Here in her example, Anna used 2 colors. She used 2 entire tubes of each crystal, one on one side, one on the other side, the crystal capri and the crystal amber. I'm going to be using a variegation of blues going from light to dark with the metallic transparent aqua, the metallic transparent green, the light sapphire AB, and the metallic transparent blue. So it's going to go kind of my lighter to darker as I progress around the bracelet. For the 11Os, I'm using Toho Permafinish Aluminum in the 11O for this design. It is right angle weave, and it's a form of cubic right angle weave or triangular right angle weave. I'm going to be showing it though for you new people and for the beginners with 2 needles. It is much easier for people conceptually to get 2 needles and binding these together than it is to create it as actual floors and doing that cubic right angle weave. If you do know the cubic right angle weave, it's going to be easier possibly for you to do this with 1 needle. You can also watch the right angle weave tutorial, learn how to do this, and then pick up back to this bracelet and get an idea. In addition to the 2 needles, we're going to be using some thread. I'm using 0.006 gray wildfire beading thread. It's going to match nicely with my beads, and you're not going to see it too much between my actual lighter of my crystals. 2 needles, a lot of thread, and a thread burner are nice to have handy. You have a thread burner, you're going to burn the thread off the actual spool and burn down the end of the threads because we're going to have to connect it somewhere, as well as burning down the end of the thread at the very end of the project. I also have some super new glue here because this is a bangle. Where I do burn down the thread, I'll also do some super glue for that piece. Always handy, I like to have a pair of needle nose pliers. It's going to flatten out the thread, make it easier to thread the needles, as well as if you need to do a little yanking of any needles through the project, you can do that as well. You'll also want a nice workable surface to have a nice clean area to make you more efficient and to make you a better beader. So to start, I have 2 needles on my 5 feet of beading thread, 1 needle on either end. Again, size 10 needles. To begin the bangle, we're going to begin with a series of right angle weave. We're going to do our first row of right angle weave and connect the bracelet together and then work on our next rows of our right angle weave. If you know right angle weave with 1 needle, you're more than welcome to start and do it with 1 needle. I'm going to show you beginners how to do it with 2. To get started, we're going to add 1 crystal onto our needle. Again, we use a lot of crystals, approximately 180 or so. So you're going to get the hang of this down rather quickly. On either needle then, I'm going to put an 11, a crystal, and an 11. And let that drop down to that beginner crystal. From here, add another crystal, this time with the crystal going 1 needle through from right to left and the other from left to right. Pull the needles out so they're equal distance apart from the base. That gets us our first right angle unit, or our first roll unit. From here, it is very, very simple. On the right needle, seed bead, crystal, seed bead. Left needle, seed bead, crystal, seed bead. Let those drop down next to your project. And now it's time to crisscross. One needle through from right to left, and the other from left to right. Pull the needles through at equal distance. And after this second time here, you shouldn't have to worry about that. And there you have your starter set. You're going to continue this stitch about 30 times for a average size bangle, which is going to be about 7.5 inches. If you have a smaller wrist like I do, you may want to check it about 50 times and see whether or not it's going to go over the widest part of your knuckle. As I do the bracelet, I'm going to progress and I have 4 colors, so I'm going to do about 10 boxes, 13 boxes of each color, going from my darkest to my lightest in my color range. Just showing as I progress to the next color that I have my couple rows here. I'll pour out a collection of the next color in my color rainbow wave here. And again, I'm at the connection point, so one bead's going to go, one needle's from right to left, the other's left to right. And I'll just continue on with about 12 more stitches using that blue light sapphire bead. So again, I continue on. If you want to, as a time saver, if you're not great using 2 needles at once, you can use one and just do a series of 11 O's in between your crystals. From here then, after you get about 8 or so on, you can push this needle into your bead mat or your bead on it board. Pick up the left hand needle in your right hand and continue on, this time adding a seed bead, crystal, seed bead, and then going to the next place where you have your crystal that you're going to join and sew down towards your project. Pulling in, switching it up. Again, seed bead, crystal, seed bead. Move the beads down from the right needle and sew through the next joining bead going in the opposite direction. At the end of each row, just give a tight little pull and continue on with your design, changing every 11 to 13 or so sections if you're working with 4 colors. Again, if you're just working with 2 colors, you're going to want to go about 28 to 30 rows of your one color, and then you're going to switch to your second color. So I'm done doing my rows, and I apologize earlier. I was thinking 60, but it's 30 groupings. I'm counting your actual right angle weave. So you're going to divide by approximately 28 to 34, depending on your wrist size. What you do want to get ready to do is actually join the ends together. To join the ends together, I have the complete end of one of my rotations. I'm going to go ahead and add on to each thread, both the right and the left, my next crystal. Instead of adding another crystal to cross through, I'm going to go to the opposite end of the bracelet, making sure that it's rolling over on itself, with one needle going in from right to left and the other needle from left to right through that first bead that we put in on the project. Pulling nice and tightly closed then, that gives you an opportunity to measure the bangle on your wrist. You want to make sure that it fits comfortably over the widest part of your hand without being too big that it's going to fall off your wrist. From here, we're going to get ready to add our next row of our right angle weave. To add our next row, I want you to take your right needle and go through the right hand side of the beads that you are coming out out of. Go back through the bead at the connection point there that you're crossing through and back down through this side. From here, both needles are coming out right at the same place. I want the needles to be coming out right now at the opposite ends of one of my side beads. So I'm going to take one needle coming out one side and one needle coming out the other side. And it doesn't actually really matter where on the right angle weave stitch portion you are. From here, working with the same color, I'm going to add a crystal on the needle that's coming out towards the bottom, an 11, a crystal, and an 11, and another crystal. Picking up the left needle here, I'm going to crisscross through the last crystal that I just added with my needle going in from the right towards the left. Give a nice tight pull, and I'm on to continue the stitch. To continue the stitch, you're simply going to take your needle and thread and continue going through the center bead with the right needle going towards the left and the left needle going towards the right. When you get on the side then, we're going to be sharing that side crystal. So always the needle that's on the right hand side is going to go up through the seed bead, the crystal, and the seed bead on the right. The needle that's on the left grabs your next 11 crystal, 11 seed bead. Once you have that grabbed, you're going to grab a new crystal and add it to the needle. From there, the needle that's on the right hand side crisscrosses through that last crystal that was added. That's going to add your next row of that right angle weave. Again, now the needle that's on the right hand side goes up the 3 beads that sit on the right, the seed bead, the crystal, the seed bead. Needle that's on the left adds another seed bead crystal on the side, and then the crystal that we share, and the needle goes right to left. As I continue the rows, I want to make sure when I get to the appropriate places that I'm switching the color of the crystal as I continue to add in this second row. Go ahead around the complete project here, adding in your second row and switching up your colors. As you get to the end of the second row, you'll get to a point where you need to actually close the rows and join the sides together. With the needle that's on the right hand side, I'm going to go up the seed bead, crystal, seed bead, and bring the needle over through the first bead of row 2. The needle that's on the left hand side here, I'll add the last grouping of seed bead, crystal, seed bead, go through that same crystal, and then we'll get ready to go to the outer edge. The outer edge is going to bring it into that bangle shape and into the triangle effect. As we add the last bead, we're going to be joining the 2 outer sides into the middle and creating the triangle. To do so, we are going to be adding only in the middle sections. So our side beads are already going to be established. We're only going to be adding one more bead, which is going to be our crossover bead. To get into place, I'm going to take my needle here on the right side that I just brought the needle or brought the thread through, go up through the center 3 beads, and go even further over to the right by going through the next bead that sits horizontally. On the right hand side or the left hand side, I'm going to take that needle and go up through the beads here on the side, so that way my needles are sitting on opposite sides. Going through then on the right hand side, up through the 3 beads that sit on the outer edge. I'm going to go up on the right hand side and on the left hand side. As you're exiting the seed bead on both the right and the left, you're going to pick up another bead. I'm going to go back to my middle color Needle on the right is going to go from right to left. Needle on the left from left to right and cross through. That's going to bring this into that triangular shape. The needle now on the right hand side goes through the next set of beads on the right, and the needle on the left goes through the next set of beads on the left. From there, grab another bead, needle that's on the right goes from right to left, needle on the left from left to right. So you're going to continue doing this stitch and bringing it in together by going up the beads on the right side and the left side, and then joining it with that crossover between. As I continue to, I'll switch between my colors and progress that color transition, making sure that you're always going through the seed beads on the side and that you're always adding a crystal to cross through the two beads. That's going to continue the whole length of the bracelet, bending those two first rows in together to create that triangular effect. As I finish up the design, I'm coming up the last of the beads here along the side and getting my thread and needle to a position that I am going to tie off the needle and thread. To do so, I want to make sure that my needle and thread are coming out in the exact same place. Give a nice tight pull to tighten up any of those seams that we may have. And you can see kind of that nice color wave going on. The thread and needle are right next to one another between a seed bead and a crystal. And I'm just going to simply tie off the threads in a square knot, right over left, left over right. I have one thread end, it's a little bit longer than the other, so that's the one that I'm keeping the needle on. The other one that was shorter, I just took the needle off. After I have that nice tight knot, I'll take the needle that I kept on and sew back through a little bit more of the project, which is going to allow me to have my thread ends in different locations, so it's not the thread ends having a big knot as I burn them down. As I sew back through the project a little bit too, just as a reinforcement, I'll go underneath one of these thread passes here, make a loop, sew through the loop once, sew through the loop twice, and make a nice sewer's knot right there. Taking the needle and thread then off, or the needle off the thread, I'll go back to the original one here, leave about 1/4 of an inch, and then take that thread end with my burner and burn down against the project. Same thing with the other one here at the end, leave a little bit, go in here and burn that one down as well. Making sure when you're burning down that you're not burning down any of your actual threads that are in the project. Go back over here too to other places that I added thread. I should replace my battery here so it burns down nice and quicker for you. I'm going to burn that thread down, and really the color of thread, that gray color, blends in really nicely. Over here I ended up with multiple threads kind of exposed. Ideally, like I said, I like to only have one thread exposed at each of my connection points. With the bangle then, it is done, and it'll have that kind of nice rolling fashion to it, whether or not you make it bigger or smaller, depending on how many stitches you have. Again, this crystal triangle bangle is a great idea for you to kind of go and take off and make what you want to make. This is a nice, simple project, a simple way to do kind of that circular, that cubic right angle weave that you can follow along easily with those two needles. If you really have trouble Another idea is just to draw on a piece of paper exactly where your thread ends are going. We should hopefully have a pattern out for this for you guys as well, but until that point, go ahead and just trace your thread end. You can watch some of the other YouTube videos as well, and try this out with a bunch of different styles of beads too, which will give you a completely different look rather than these 4mm crystals. Again, if you need any of the materials to do Anna's crystal bangle, you can go back to the beginning of the video where I list out the materials. There's also that little date stamp that says when the video was produced. Below that, there's a button with a down arrow that has that show more button, and you can get links to the different products to purchase from me online there. As well as if you like this YouTube video, want to learn other things and other designs as well, want to know what the new products are, what's going on in the beading world, and what we have to bring to you, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel to get those regular updates when I do videos for you. You can also visit us at PotomacBeads.com. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest. You can also join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. It's a members group that you can ask to become a member of, get regular interaction with different customers, get ideas, as well as advice, and a really great group of people to interact with. As always, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully this triangle crystal bangle will inspire you to create and design and give you a wonderful selection of ideas to go from. Thanks so much for watching, and enjoy creating.